Welcome to a live CK podcast here on the Basketball Zone Cowbell Kingdom YouTube channel. I'm your host, Leo Bias. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. We're talking a lot of different sports, different varieties of topics. NBA Finals ended, Game 4 ended about 45 minutes ago. LeBron James and Anthony Davis take control of the series. Jimmy Butler was not the same player. I felt like he was a little bit hesitant, is what I would say. He wasn't as aggressive as he was in Game 3. So we'll talk about that for a little bit. Also, trade rumors with the Kings. And I'll pose a question, right, which is the question of the show. Who do you think is a better player, better fit? Gordon Hayward or Tobias Harris, who would fit better on the Kings? Your Oakland Athletics, man, they are playing like themselves. They're playing like the A's in the postseason. Unfortunately, it hurts to watch them play this way, losing to a very good team in the Astros, even though they're cheaters. The Astros are pretty damn good. I'll say that. Also, huge shout out to Valley Tire Center, who have supported Cowbell Kingdom, the platform, for a long time. We appreciate their business. They're having great deals on Toyo tires, Cooper tires, all those things, guys. So please make sure you guys support your local businesses. It's very important to the economy. But huge shout out to Valley Tire Center for always supporting the Cowbell Kingdom platform. You guys let them know that Leo Bia sent you guys, and they will hook you guys up with a free mask and a great deal. Again, huge shout out to Valley Tire Center in Woodland, California. I'm just waiting for you guys to join the show. I'll wait for you guys as well. The phone lines are open if you want to discuss it with me. Call in. The number is 209-565-3079. Again, that's 209-565-3079. Lots and lots of things to discuss. Also, Alvin Gentry, new associate head coach for the Sacramento Kings. I'll talk about that and what I think about this move. It may shock some of you guys, but I'll let you guys know regardless. Are you guys on? Yup. All right. Make sure to share, like, subscribe, all those good things, man. Hit that like button if you already have it. Kings getting ready for the next big losing streak to fire Luke Walton. Okay, so first topic, and I'll save trade rumors till the end, but LeBron James, Anthony Davis, let me know what you guys thought of Game 4 and Game 3. If you guys haven't listened to the podcast with Jimmy Allen, professional overseas hooper, very good friend of mine. We were in Reno, Nevada this past weekend, and we talked hoops. We talked top 10 players in the NBA. That was pretty fun. If you haven't not watched it, but if you haven't listened to it on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere where you get your audio podcasts, please make sure you tune in. It was a very spirited conversation. That was pretty fun. So make sure you tune into that. And one of the big things was, for me in Game 3, was that the Heat continued to play their zone, which really helped them with their size efficiency. And now in Game 4, we saw a Laker team who was making shots, and whenever they would get inside the paint and would break that zone, they would kick it out to their guys, and they would play in transition. When the Lakers play in transition, they're very dangerous, and it was just too much today for the Heat. I felt like Jimmy Butler wasn't as aggressive, maybe because Bam came back, but still, if you add a horse to your squad, a very valuable horse, you would think, okay, let's all go in 110%. And I felt like he was not the same player. He didn't have that same sense of urgency, which to me was very frustrating to see and to watch. But I hate to say it, man. I hate the fact the Lakers are going to win the championship. They're up 3-1. I don't see the Heat coming back. Maybe one more game, but probably a gentleman's sweep. The Heat had this game. There were a lot of calls that I thought went the Lakers' way, but it is what it is. The Heat, the only way that they can really come back is if you get a 75 to 95% Gordon Dragic, and I just don't see him being able to come back and make that type of impact. It's really hurt them. Their dribble penetration, the ability to shoot. He was averaging 20 points a game, so not having the Dragon out there has really hurt the Miami Heat, and obviously not having Bam for game 2 and 3 really hurt them as well. And pretty much that game, he was just so banged up. Bam was so banged up, and it's tough, man. I mean, you're playing against the Dwight Howards of the world. I mean, that dude's out there just to injure you, to rough you up. So it happened, and the Lakers are in a great position to win the NBA championship. It is what it is, man. I mean, we'll definitely talk about a recap of the season, what I thought about the NBA bubble in a different episode. But yeah, shout out to the Lakers. They're playing well, and they're one game away from being champions again. From title number 17, the Kings have 0. Pisses me off. It pisses me off, man. Pisses me off. Tanvir says, never know, Leo. He could get it together and do what Denver did. Man, I hope so. I hope so. If you haven't gotten your merch, man, Cowbell Kingdom merch, the links should be in the bio. If not, you guys know how to get there. Teespring.com/Cowbell Kingdom. Some fire merch. Don't sleep on Sacramento. Different iterations of that shirt. Make sure to support the local brand, man. Cowbell Kingdom. Also, if you don't follow us on Basketball Zone Official on Instagram, make sure to do that. We got a lot of great content, 3-on-3s, build the team around certain players and all those good things. So really, we really would appreciate if you guys could follow us on Basketball Zone Official on Instagram. You can follow me at Twitter at BSLeo as well. We can always engage in the conversation. You can DM me. But a lot of you guys DM me on Instagram, which is a good thing because for the most part, I do answer you guys, and I try to do my best to always engage with you guys via DMs, via comments, and that's what I love doing. So definitely keep them coming my way. I also want to discuss the new move, right? Which is what a lot of you guys want to know. What do I think about Alvin Gentry being the new associate head coach? Luke Walton supposedly led the charge and the interview process. He really wanted Alvin, which I think is a good move if he stays as the assistant head coach, because as of today, I would say that both Alvin and Luke Walton are associate or whatever you want to call them, lead assistant type coaches. I don't think either one is a great head coach. So I know that may shock some of you guys, but I've never been a Gentry fan. And if hypothetically the Kings get off to a rough start, I know a lot of you guys want me to say, well, it's going to be a great move. Luke's going to get fired, and then Gentry's going to take over and lead the Kings to the playoffs. I don't think he will. I don't think he's really that good of a head coach. He's had a lot of opportunities, and I don't know. I'm not in love with him. He's a good coach. I think he's a very quality assistant, but he's not head coach material, in my opinion, at least. That's my opinion. I think if it stays this way, he could help really guide Luke from a leadership and from a veteran, from an experience standpoint. But Luke has to really buckle down and just learn from his previous mistakes. I think Luke has more upside to be a better coach, as strange as that sounds. And that's how I feel. I mean, I just don't think Gentry is that good of a head coach. I know a lot of you guys dislike Luke for multiple reasons, but the reality is, I think from an upside standpoint, Luke has more upside to be a better head coach down the road, or at least this season. I don't know. I just don't love Gentry, man. I think he had a lot of talent, and he's had talent, and he just, for whatever reason, it just hasn't panned out the way it should have in New Orleans. I don't know, man. I'm just not a huge fan of him. I'm just not. Even in his tenure with the Suns, I mean, he had a few good seasons, I believe. Would have to double check on that, but nothing extraordinary. It is what it is. Lakers got some calls down the stretch that made no sense. 1000% agree. Would you welcome DMC back if he would want to come back? I personally wouldn't. But if he comes back, he comes back. I mean, it is what it is. I don't see what he adds in terms of starter value. I think at this point of his career, he's a backup. He's a guy that's going to have always complications with injuries, and it's unfortunate. I want him to get healthy, like I really do, but I don't know. I mean, do you want to bring in a guy that if you start losing could potentially become a problem in your locker room? I don't know if it's worth it. Now, if you had a championship team, then it would make sense to bring him in. But to a team who isn't very good, let's be honest, the Kings aren't very good, to bring him into this type of environment where you're trying to settle in a new GM and you have a young coach like Luke Walton who really hasn't proven anything, I don't know if DMC would be the best thing. Also, before I get to trade rumors and this potential hypothetical trade that I think I've seen it on Twitter, I've seen it on multiple platforms, but it's the Celtics and the Kings trading, Hayward and Buddy and those type of pieces. Real quick, I'm disappointed in the A's. I think they have to do better. The Astros obviously are playing well. They're pitching. Today they pitched out of their mind, right? But the A's should be able to hit that team because that bullpen and honestly their pitching staff as of right now with all the injuries, they should be able to hit them. They hit them in game 1. They just couldn't close out for a lot of reasons. Obviously, some mistakes there, but the A's got to do better, man. And if they get swept, that's embarrassing to the cheating as Houston Astros. I hope it doesn't happen. I'm praying it doesn't happen. But they must do better. They must do better. Every single player on that team needs to step up. I know you don't have your best player in Chapman. Sean Manaea looked bad after inning number 3 and 4. He digressed a lot. I don't know what went wrong with him. His fastball got worse. His location got worse. It is what it is, man. They got to bounce back tomorrow and at least win a game. At least win a game, man. I know a lot of you guys also want to talk about Buddy Hield not returning the calls, right, to Luke Walton. Yes, it's true. Yes, Buddy wants to get traded. I think it's very obvious at this point. And the thing is, though, he doesn't have a choice because he's under contract. Now, he can do all he can to get traded. But at the end of the day, the Kings have to look at this, be patient. There's no rush right now at all. And if he has to report to training camp, he's going to report because he loves the game of basketball. And yes, he doesn't have a great relationship per se, right, with Luke. And obviously, we know the relationship he had with Paige and with Vlade wasn't the best. A lot of it because of contract complications. I'll just leave it at that. And, you kind of lost faith in each other, right? They lost faith in him. He lost faith in them. And it's gone south since. So can he fix this issue with Luke Walton? If it came down to it, I think he would be able to, or he would have to at least attempt to do it. Because, again, he's still under contract. But when I see a lot of things like, oh, well, they have to get rid of him. They don't have to get rid of him. They just have to find the right deal that suits the team. Now, obviously, I would like for him to go to a good team like the Celtics, and I'll talk about that proposed trade in a little bit. And obviously, you see the Sixers being a potential trade partner. A lot of the main piece being Tobias Harris, which is why I posed the question and is the main question of the show. Who's a better player? Who would fit better on the Kings, Tobias Harris or a healthy Gordon Hayward? And I'll get into that. But there's no rush. It's again NBA Finals. You're bored as a fan. You want to see action, and the Kings have to really sit back, have a real plan in place, and then make a move accordingly. Don't rush into things. The draft isn't until was it November 18th, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's November 18th. There's still some time to really see the full picture, see in what direction you want to go. Do you want to continue and have this construction of this roster where you lack a lot of defense, but you have a lot of firepower in terms of offense? Or do you want to trade some of those pieces, maybe do a sign and trade for Bogey and get better defensively? Those are all questions that you must ask yourselves before you decide to trade a Buddy Hield or before you sign, right, match anybody's offer for Bogdanovich. And then you got to think about extending De'Aaron Fox. So a lot of questions that I don't know if they know if Monte McNair even knows what he's gonna do. But in terms of making a deal now, you don't have to make a deal now. You just don't. Don't make a deal just to make a deal. Make the right deal to help this organization leave this purgatory of just frustrations, man, of not making the playoffs, of headaches. You want to make the right moves. You want to have cap flexibility. You want to make the right draft picks. Victor Oladipo's out there as well. That's one of the other names that could potentially arise with Indiana. But again, would Victor even want to stay following this season? The same with Gordon, right? He's going to be a free agent in 2021, so it would be a one-year rental if you do that. Now, again, he is on that 4-year, $127 million. Tobias is on that 5-year, $180 million. Now, that is ridiculous to me. Average salary, $36 million, I believe. 37 would get up to 40. Oh my gosh, at $40 million again. Who is the better player? It's tough, but I'm gonna go with Gordon. I think Hayward, when he's healthy, he's a better basketball player. He's been to the All-Star game. I believe he's at an All-NBA season, if I recall. But I think from an overall standpoint, I would take Hayward over Tobias Harris. Not because of the money, but because I genuinely think that when you have a healthy Hayward, this guy can play make, can play defense, and that's so valuable for a guy who can be a secondary playmaker and get you buckets, get you timely buckets. He can play solid defense. I think that's valuable. Tobias Harris tends to disappear in the big moments. He disappeared with the Clippers in big moments. He has disappeared in Philadelphia in the big moments. He wasn't as good in Detroit. But Hayward has proven that when he's healthy, he can be a big-time player. Before his injury, this dude was a beast. Top 15 player, probably even higher, without any question in my mind. Tobias has never reached that point. Hayward is a beast. Now, would the Kings want to take that deal, take that risk? Who knows? Who knows? But it's interesting, though, for sure. Gordon might be done physically. That's from Black and Brown Boxing. That's tough. I hope not. Like, I really don't. I want him to succeed. He just had his first boy, I believe, during the playoffs. I think he missed the birth of his child, which that is awful. Never want to do that, but hey, he was committed to the team, and they just lost to a better team in the Miami Heat, and he was coming off an injury. But it's interesting, man. Let's see that trade or that proposed trade, right? Which is, I think there's different variations of that trade. So the Celtics would get Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, and the Kings would get Gordon, Daniel Tice, Enes Kanter, and Memphis' 2020 first-round pick. Whew. I like the deal. I do like it. I don't like the one with with Rashawn Holmes included, but I would definitely like this deal. I think it's fair for both sides. The Celtics would get two very good basketball players, right? Elite top three, top four shooter and Buddy Hield, and they have the right wings to cover his defensive deficiencies. And then you have a Harrison Barnes, which you're adding a good defender as it is. So you add more depth to the wing, a guy who can get you 15 points on any given night. That's solid. The Celtics would really benefit from that. I know they would like to move on from Hayward because of all the injuries, but maybe Hayward with this squad, with the Kings, would take on the bigger role, more like that Utah Jazz role, and really excel next to De'Aaron Fox on the wing, playing both ends of the floor. We know what he's capable of doing when he's healthy. Even with the Celtics, even when he came off the bench, you would still see a lot of those flashes from old Hayward. And I think if he does stay healthy, you would see that version of Hayward where he was just a stud with the Kings. I think he's just better than Tobias Harris, period. So the Celtics would get two really good players. You like that pick, right? You might have to maybe trade a Tice or a Cantor down the road, but it's not bad depth to have. Tice is a very good player. I would love to have Tice and then Rashawn Holmes as my two guys, right? As my two centers. I think Tice is a very good basketball player. I don't know if they would even want to get rid of Tice, but to me, Down Tice is so solid. He's a great role man. He plays really good defense. He's just underrated. So I would make that deal happen, right? I think it's a win-win for both, where the Celtics get a surefire shooter to add to what they have, which would then spread the floor for a guy like a Jason Tatum, like a Jaylen Brown, like a Kemba Walker. But then Kemba Walker, Buddy Hield, both defensive liabilities. But you still have Marcus Smart, one of the best defenders in the NBA. But then you would add Harrison Barnes. So, man, that's a really good deal for both teams. For both teams. And then I would say this. Maybe you go out and you do a sign and trade. But again, this would be risky, right? Then you do a sign and trade for Bogey to Indiana to get you a Oladipo. They would get Bogey. However that would work, I'm not sure. I'm not a salary cap expert. If that could work, would you do it? If you're the Kings, would you do it if you're the Pacers? Obviously, they would get Bogey on a long-term deal. Again, don't quote me. I don't know if it would work from a salary cap standpoint, but I think they would like a guy like a Bogdanovic after losing a guy like a Bojan Bogdanovic. I think that's interesting. I think at that point, you're risking, right, losing Victor Oladipo and Hayward, which then that would give you a lot of flexibility moving forward, but you would lose really good players. But then the idea of having De'Aaron Fox, Victor Oladipo, Gordon Hayward start at the 1, 2, and 3, I don't know, but on NBA 2K, they'd be ballers. In real life, it would depend on injuries, on their health. But if those three could stay healthy, because I've been thinking about this, I'm like, if I'm Monte McNair, what would I do? How would I pull all these pieces and bring them together, and then put them together and hope that they work? Those three guys, when healthy, Oladipo, Fox, and Hayward would be a great trio. Would be a great trio defensively, offensively, and that would get me very, very excited with Rashawn Holmes and Daniel Tice. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. And then you still got Marvin Bagley. You still got Marvin Bagley, which would be the wild card there. That would be nice. I'm not going to lie. Bogey and the pick to the Wolves for their pick, and we draft LaMelo. That's not happening. I would never, and I love Bogey. That's my really good friend, but he's not. He's not worth giving up the number one pick. I'm sorry. He's just not. Also, the Kings need to develop their mental toughness, tenacity, and overall team chemistry. Agree 1,000% with that. But you would also need those tough players, like those Norman Powells, like those OGs, like those Marcus Smart type players. You got to get those type of players on this team. Period. We just need to scout better, draft better, to have a better team. 1,000%. Because then you would have Memphis's pick, and you would have your own pick. You would have a chance to get a guy like a Bay, even a guy like a Neesmith, right? Man, can you imagine that? The depth you would add to this team with the Depot, Hayward, and a De'Aaron Fox. That would be nice. That would be nice. Wow. With Gentry join coaching staff, I want to see if the Kings trade Bagley, Farrell, Belitza in the Kings' second round for Hayes, Jackson, and Palace first round pick if they can. That's interesting. That's interesting. Bagley isn't getting traded, bro. Stop it. I didn't say that. Oh, my bad. That's on me. I read what Javier said. Okay. That's on me. I confused for a little bit. Can't believe we didn't hit on Harry, Justin Jackson, and Frank Mason. But he would drive the Celtics goes crazy in his mental mistakes. Who knows? Maybe you go to a good organization and you change your bad habits. You never know. Bogey returner? Hell nah. Are you drunk? No. You have the most random show titles of anyone I'm sub to. Ron Ultra. Let me know why they're weird though, because I've gone over every single thing for real though. Got to think outside the box. That's a nice big three. Luke Walton over and under 20 games coaching. Over. Would you draft Winston? I would. He's solid. Cassius Winston from Michigan State. He's solid. I'm glad I stopped taking pro sports so seriously. Kings, Raiders, and A's will never win it all before I die. Bro, those are all my teams, man. And it's super frustrating. You get depressed a lot of the times. You're like, man, like, why do I have to choose like the wackiest teams ever? And then because you're so loyal, you just want to see them succeed. And every year is like misery, man. It sucks. It's not where you located in the draft. It's how you scout our talent. Absolutely, 1,000%. Do you rather pick R.J. Hampton or Neesmith with the number 12 overall pick? That's tough, but I think I would go Neesmith because I prioritize shooting. But then I think as an overall player, R.J. may be a better player down the road. He's fast. He can play the point, the two, potentially the three, maybe not, but definitely the 1 and 2. And that in itself is very valuable. He's very versatile. He's not great at really anything, like insanely great, but he's good at a lot of things, which is why I like RJ. But Neesmith is just so good. Oh man, he's such a great shooter. I just don't see how any team in the NBA wouldn't be able to use this type of guy, right? You bring him off the screens, you bring him off the bench, potentially could start if he's a plus on defense or at least not a minus on defense. He'd be nice to have without question. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast, this same podcast, but the audio version, which is on iTunes and Spotify. You can type in on the Apple Store, CK Podcast with Leo Biaz, should pop up there. Please leave a review. Would really appreciate and help us out a lot. What do you think of Patrick Williams? I like him. I mean, he's very raw. He's young. But at number 12, I would pass on him, honestly. And I would look at guys like the Neesmiths, like the RJs, like the Maxis, like the Bays of the world. So those would be my picks, is what I would look at if I was the Kings. If you're drafting Patrick, you're drafting like super upside, which is not a bad thing to do. But then that would give you an indication of, well, we're not trying to make the playoffs, right? So to me, that would be concerning. But again, I could be wrong. He could be a great player down the road. As of today, I don't see him playing much. I think he's very raw still. And it's going to take some time to develop. That's just my opinion, though. Right? That's me. feel you're paying 100%. It's hard, but I'm a loyal fan. What you feel if we trade Buddy to the Spurs for Aldridge in the pick? Awful. I would never do that. I I don't like LaMarcus Aldridge. Uh, a Fox and Oladipo backcourt would be lethal if healthy. Yeah, Fox, Depot, and a Hayward. That'd be nice. No, you know about the Bagley Fox beef. Are you allowed to speak on it? I actually don't know what really happened. I know about it. I know a little bit, kind of, but not the full story. I've been trying to figure it out, trying to get to the bottom of it, but Fox and his camp won't talk about it. I don't have a great relationship or a good or a bad relationship with the Bagley camp, but I tried and I reached out to the Fox camp, but I didn't get no answer at all. Obviously, I want to know, but I don't want to know because I don't want to know like the beef between these dudes because then it's like, man, it gets me discouraged because you never want beef, and if there is beef, you keep that in house and you fix it. As a grown man, you got to fix those type of things. Period. So that's me being honest to you. Like that's I've tried to find out, and I know a little bit of things, man, but I don't know the full story of that. I hope they fixed it, for the betterment of the organization. But if they didn't, you could see Bagley on the move, right? Because I wouldn't want to piss off my best player in De'Aaron Fox. And you're going to extend De'Aaron Fox potentially soon. And if you had to choose one of the players, you would choose De'Aaron Fox. But I hope it doesn't come down to that. And if you do trade Bagley, trade him to get a better player or to make your team better. Period. Hello and welcome to the show.
How you doing today?
What's up, brother?
Yeah, I met you downtown Sacramento. Javier, we checked it back and forth.
What's up? What's up? What's up, Javi?
I'm just I'm listening to your ideas and I respect your asking. I really want to give it another shot and a try with this roster, man. I hear these trades and I just feel as if is Buddy Hield's departure worth more than I'm not saying let go of Luke Walton, but Luke Walton consists of the issue. And I'm not saying we need to fire the coach, but Buddy Hield's upside in his production with his 3-point capability is so much greater than having Luke Walton as a coach because that's so invaluable in today's NBA.
Right.
Replace him for an overpaid Tobias Harris or Gordon Hayward. I mean, no disrespect, but these Gordon Hayward and Victor Oladipo conversations are great, but these are guys coming off of fatal injuries. They're not in life, talking about basketball sense, and
it's risky.
You put him at the 2 with Bogey at the 3. You put Harris at the 4. He's more prone to play 4 in the NBA with Fox running the point and putting Bagley at the 5. Just run it back and see what you have because Luke Walton's overall scheme last year just didn't fit. But let's see with Monty McNair is like, hey man, my scheme, my vision, we can run what I want to run with this roster and be competitive. You trade away Buddy, who's a valuable asset, or Bogey, and that's capital you just can't give them in regards to talent. Gordon Hayward and Tobias are great teams, but they're highly overpaid. Victor Oladipo is 55 games in 2 years.
Yep.
I think I sent a text to you about the Jokic. I know that's not going to happen. It's just I'm trying to throw that for Luka. And I know we're never going to get him, but it's like if we're going to trade one of them two, we need a star with some salary cap relief, and it's hard to manage both. But those dudes are young, and you find the air on the perimeter, kicking out to either of them, with Harrison playing what he's expected to give. And let's see what we have at 21-year-old 35, because Marvin has let me down for 2 years, but it's just, I want your opinion on just running it back. Run it back what you have, try to re-sign Giles, and maybe even win one of the two, if not both, and that's a stretch. But, I just want to see because in 18-19, they weren't no playoff contender, but they were right there to get in.
So if you wait, but if you run it back, are you saying run it back with Luke Walton?
Well, I don't really think they have a choice, but the Alvin Gentry hire maybe it's a stretch again, maybe it's a reach, but I feel like if Luke doesn't do what he's supposed to, if he doesn't do what McNair's asking him, or he just underperforms like last year, I feel like, hey, man, you see this guy to your right, he's a proven coach. He's not no championship head coach, but he's won games and he's been in the playoffs good amount, considerable amount of time. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that emphasis on Luke Walton to get his stuff together, but it's like, man, how did this team fall 5 games worse with the same roster with growth and maturity and development? Granted, Baggy didn't play, but the team, we all watched, the team had no rhythm, it had no identity, but it had no swag. And I'm telling you, I promise you, I watched every game since I can remember. And I'm not saying Iman Shumpert's some great player or independent, but he brought swag to that team that scores. I know you remember him and Willie Cauley-Stein were better defensive players than they currently in possession of that bench. I would go re-sign both. Whether they do or not, that's all subjective. But I'm saying they had a swag 18-19 where they lethal from the perimeter. They ran up and down. Any given time, Fox wanted to go to the cup. He couldn't, and I kicked it out, buddy. Like you said, he's a spot-up shooter, but he's a rhythm shooter, and he's volume, but also he's an off-dribble shooter. The correct language, I might be a little off, but I know you said that numerous times about the type of shooter he is for his production. He's not a guy who creates his own shot, dribble up the court. That's not his strength. But from the perimeter, wait for that shot, he's lethal. He was top 3, top 5 in my estimation in the NBA. And, I feel like running it back, I wouldn't say it would be the best thing, but to get rid of Bogey and Buddy because you have new GM, but why? I think the scheme needs to be different. Are you trying to fit a square peg in a round hole? Like you said, they don't have the length athleticism to be what Luke wants to play. They don't have the Bibles and the options, but they got guys that play similar to how they played in Houston. I don't know if McNair wants to play like that in Houston, but I just want your opinion because I'm trying to make sure the language you said correctly how Buddy's strengths are, but that's something you just can't replace. You know what I mean? Like we watched Buddy 18-19 kill teams from the perimeter. I mean, won a few games themselves. The Philly game, the Detroit game,
Right.
So I just want your opinion on that in general because what was the correct language you said for Buddy? He's not an off-ball, not a the way you said the way he contributes best when he shoots. Not on the ball, but like off dribble or like you remember what I'm talking about? You brought it up on your other podcast and shows before.
Yeah, I mean he's a shooting guard. I don't want him as a secondary. I don't want him as a primary ball handler, primary playmaker. It's okay to have him as a secondary playmaker, in my opinion, because he is able to make that pocket pass in the pick and roll. He did it a bunch of times this past year, and I know a lot of people want to talk about the turnovers. But if you have the ball, the amount of time that he had the ball, which again wasn't his fault because he was put in that situation, then you're going to commit turnovers because that's not your strength. Your strength is to come off of double stagger screens, run around, play like a Duncan Robinson type role. That's his role. But because of the injuries, he had to play differently. And even when Bogey came back, and the thing is, what frustrated me and what I think the big difference was between Dave and Luke was that Dave did the opposite. He had Bogey run the point a lot, which I think is the best thing because he's a very good playmaker. And this year, Luke had the opposite. He wanted Buddy to take on that role, and it just didn't work. And anytime you play next to a Kojo who is an awful, shooter from the perimeter, who lacks confidence, and even though I'll give him credit, his percentages did go up in the second half of the season, but still, like teams are going to play off of him, and they're just going to key on Buddy Hield, and it's so easy to guard Buddy Hield because you play a guy like Kojo next to him, you're pretty much setting him up to fail, in my opinion. So, right, so you have to play him the majority of the time with guys like Bogey, with guys like Fox, and I felt like when they were healthy, that wasn't the case. But yeah, man, thank you so much for calling in, brother. I appreciate it all the time, man.
No problem. I'll talk to you soon, and you keep up, all the good work. I look forward to seeing you next podcast and YouTube video. I'll watch after I hang up, man. Good stuff.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, you have a good one.
Good call, man, from my guy Javier. Again, anytime you play next to a Kojo, you're not going to do well in terms of floor spacing because they're going to play off of Kojo. That's a fact. That's what the scout report says. Play off of Kojo, and if the ball gets kicked out to him, hey, guess what? He's going to hesitate. Unless the shot clock is running down, he's going to shoot the ball, which is when he's at his best, when he doesn't have to think. When Kojo thinks too much, he's not a good player offensively. I'm sorry. He's just not. He needs to stop thinking and start shooting. And he did towards the latter end of the year, but I just feel like it was a little bit too late. He's a good player. He's a good player, and I think he'd fit best in a very structured championship type team that would be able to use him defensively, where he would have a bunch of scorers and playmakers around him. Then that would work. But the way this roster was constructed, I just felt like having a guy like a Yogi off the bench who could have pushed the pace a lot better would have been better for the team. But I'm not the coach, and I don't think there's a huge disparity between those two guys. Again, but that's because I'm not that high on Kojo. And again, whenever you play him next to Buddy, but you want Buddy to bring the ball up and to play make, and to have him as essentially the off guard, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's just ridiculous. So if you go back and you watch a lot of the bench unit minutes, you're going to see Buddy be the primary ball handler too many times. And to me, that's super frustrating because that's not his job. Like, that's not what you want Buddy doing. You want Buddy to be used properly, to be used the way he was used when Dave was his coach, when he had a great year. I mean, he didn't have a bad year last year. And let's not act just because he got paid, and it doesn't kick in until this year, so he was still on the rookie deal. But because he got paid, you have a different perception of him. But when you really look at his season, statistically, it wasn't like astronomically worse. It was a little bit worse. Like a little bit worse. Kojo, the great Corey Joseph. Giles going to be back. We need some damn perimeter defense. Leo, trade Buddy to the Hornets. Besides Depot and Hayward, who else would be trade targets to this team? Sign the Morris twin. We need a dog on this team. I love your glasses, man. I appreciate that, bro. Yeah. We'll get into other things, into other targets. Just really want to come on here and just talk about Hayward against Harris. Again, Hayward and Depot would be a huge risk. They could leave you after 2021, but it's a risk that you may have to take it for the Kings. You're in Sacramento. You're trying to make the playoffs. You prove to them. You tell them, hey, man, you come here. You play with our star, right? And De'Aaron Fox, I'm talking like if I was Monte McNair, you come and you play with our young star and De'Aaron Fox. If you guys make the playoffs, you guys will build something special here in Sacramento. Is that a good selling point? You have a new arena. You have a great fan base. Who knows, man? Could you convince him to sign and then later trade him if it doesn't work out? Sure. But I like that idea of a Fox, Depot, Hayward trio. I would love it. That's going to do it, y'all. Appreciate Valley Tire Center for supporting the Cowboy Kingdom platform. Again, make sure you support them as well. And follow them on Instagram at Valley Tire Center. You guys can follow them on Twitter as well, on Facebook. Like them on Facebook. Support your local businesses, man. Lots of cool stuff coming up later down the week. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys on the next one.